Brian Kong, welcome to the Bookshelf Conversations.
Hey, how's it going, Ron?
Good, thanks. You are going to be participating in the New Jersey Elysian Fields chapter of Sabre Day coming up on February 7th with two other artists. So, as I ask them, give me a little job description of what you do.
Basically, I do a lot of freelance artwork. I work with Fanatics, currently doing a lot of prints for them for MLB and for NFL and WWE that they sell on their website. Um, and I've worked in baseball and comic book art like for the last roughly like 30 years, like doing various things. So.
So, you've been doing this since you're like 5 years old then?
No, I know I look a little young, but but I'll take it.
One of the things I noticed when it was a real hot thing, and I was reading it, you are the cartoonist for the comic version of The Walking Dead.
I was one of the artists. What they did was I worked on the property, and they had done sketch cards that they inserted in the product. I was one of the artists that worked on that. So I did the comic book version as well as the TV version as well. So worked on a lot of sports and pop culture properties through the years. So just doing things that I enjoy and keep it busy. So,
What do you find more challenging? Do you find the comic book work more challenging? Because that's, for lack of a better word, more creative, whereas where you're doing baseball, you're doing existing players and personnel.
um, well, with comic books, it's a little bit more challenging in terms of there's a lot that goes into like because you're doing actual storytelling and you're breaking down. You're the camera and you're moving the camera around. You have to not only just draw, but you have to design it, make it look visually appealing, and at the same time, everything has to make sense. Like someone should be able to look at all the visuals that I do and be able to pretty much tell what's going on in the story without word balloons. So,
When you're doing your sports, what is your, I mean, these are not people who are sitting there posing for you. So are you using photos as your basis? Are you doing it from memory? How does that work?
well, unfortunately, I don't have a photographic memory, so I do use photo reference and to get the likenesses and gestures right on.
So what are some of the things you will do in sports? I've noticed you do and I forget the name of it, Allen and Gintner.
Yeah. Well, so I do a lot of work with Tops. Alan and Ginter was one of the sets that I did for them. That was like my actually first published baseball work with Tops. It was like a subset that I did in 2009 of like highlights and moments, and that was a pretty cool set for me. Like growing up being a baseball fan and card collector.
And in those days, Topps was, well, when I was a kid, Topps was the only game in town, so to speak. Then you had Donruss and you had Fleer and you had Upper Deck. Uh, the card set you were working on is kind of like a throwback to the early days of baseball cards. Does that in itself present more of a challenge? Because if you go back and look at Topps over the years, every year is obviously a different version, a different set of photographs. And they're not, the earlier ones to me were more artistic. Once you got into digital photography, it seemed like everything was an action photo. In the early days, there was a headshot and maybe a little figure in the background. So the Allen and Gintner, and I hope I'm saying that right, seemed like a throwback to the early days of baseball cards when they came in cigarettes instead of bubble gum.
Yeah, I mean, they were just like, single shots, that I did in watercolor. I've done a lot of stuff where I try to take elements from the past sets, whether it be like recreating the borders or just like doing like you said like a headshot and like a small pose. I did that with my museum collection cards as well, so for tops.
So at the Sabre Day, what exactly will you be doing? Do you have a presentation? Will you be taking Q&A? How is that going to work?
I mean, I'll just have my setup of my artwork and anyone that just wants to browse the artwork and ask any questions, feel free to stop on by. I'll be might be doing some doodling and I'll sign like some of my published stuff that people have. So
It sounds like it's going to be a fun collection. Todd Radom is going to be there. Ellen Lindner is going to be there, and each has their own subspecialty. So it seems like all of you have done different things that even though they're all about baseball, they all stand on their own as presentations of all the many forms of artwork surrounding baseball.
yeah, definitely looking forward to meeting Todd and Ellen. I've especially Todd's work. I've everyone knows like the logos and all those things that he's done. So that'll be really cool to meet him and check out some of his stuff as well.
When you first started getting interested in baseball, and you mentioned card collecting, do you have any favorites from those days that serve as any kind of inspiration?
Well, growing up in that era, like the '80s, like '70s and '80s, I was a big fan of the Dick Perez Diamond King cards.
Hmm.
I that was a big influence on my work. So
Have you seen the documentary about him?
I have not gotten a chance yet.
That is a
I
really nice. It's fascinating to see his process and how long he was working at it, and how he did become a legend in the because that was something that was inserted, and I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was Donruss that he worked for, and what started out as I don't want to insult anybody by saying almost a throwaway, but it developed from like the little bonus inserts that came with many cards in those days to a whole industry on its own.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, there wasn't too much in that particular era. There wasn't too much artwork going on, so that was really cool to like you open up a pack and pull one of those cards. That was like the little subset like bonus, and like I said, I was always drawing. I was an artist, so for me that was inspiration to continue drawing. I used to draw my own baseball cards, like fold up cardboard,
Hmm.
like those. Remember those machines that you would like get the stickers in
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you pull it out, and then like they would have like these cardboard folded, and they would have like stickers in them. And so I would take those cardboard and I was actually just draw on those and make my own baseball cards. I think I might still have a couple of those like kicking around someplace, but yeah.
That's the way in when I first started collecting back in the well, I don't want to say when, but that's how you would get the cards. They would be in like those little vending machines as opposed to buying them in full packs. First they were like a pack of five with a stick of gum, and they were a pack of 10. If you were really wealthy, you could buy like the 25 cards wrapped in cellophane. And now it's just not the same because in those days when especially with tops, they would produce seven series of 100 and something cards at a time. And now basically they just put the whole thing out there for you. So the element is more instant gratification now rather than the joy of sitting there opening a pack, seeing who you got, and being, happily surprised if you got a superstar like in my day would be Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays. Now everything, you just buy the boxes as they come out. If you want it, you certainly can collect individual packs, but they're obviously a lot more expensive than they used to be when we were kids.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
So the hobby has changed a lot. I do find myself like still, recently just buying some boxes of basketball cards, and it's a different take on it. Like everyone's looking for that parallel or that special insert card, the autograph card or jersey card and stuff like that. So,
Now it
um,
seems like
but I,
there was a time when we were collecting, we collected for the joy of it. Then it became almost an investment. You're looking to find, as you say, those special cards that were very rare, and you put them aside, and hopefully, that you go on eBay and you see some of these cards are listed at thousands of dollars, which
yeah,
I just can't understand for a piece of cardboard that you hear the cliche that
yeah,
when we were kids, we used to put them in the spokes of our bikes so they sounded like motorcycles, and you don't have that mystery, that same sense of joy I feel as an older person that you had when I was a kid.
right.
Hmm.
Yep.
All right, well, Brian, thank you very much for talking with us today. I appreciate it and hope you have a great time at SABR Day in February.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.